cold and the chill, we hope we can create an environment and a family feeling of warmth and inclusion here. Susan mentioned the title of her paper, Countertransference, Regret, and Aggression, Dramas and Free Associations in an Object Relations Group Environment. In my opinion, this is a groundbreaking paper because of the raw courage of an analyst exposing her own countertransference. I think it will be very instructive and useful to all of us. I hope you enjoy, and greetings.
Both these women would continue their work in the group. Both would start to share with a whole new depth with the group as they realized how angry they were and how terrified they were, each carrying a traumatized child self within each of them. I would work with this with them. What kind of regret is this? I am asking if my regret is real in the sense of existential grief about hurting the one you love. It is this kind of existential regret that Melanie Klein seems to be speaking of when she described the combination of guilt and loss in the depressive position. This is the kind of regret I have written about being felt by patients in describing regret as a fundamental part of a developmental mourning process in my book on anatomy of regret. Or is this regret of mine towards Nancy some kind of spurious item where my regret is ultimately more of a narcissistic concern for my own loss in having Nancy leaving me in this abrupt way, undoing the heated up warmth of her former individual therapy goodbye? Is it a more narcissistic regret about losing the chance to have Nancy and the other group members see me repair things with Nancy? Could it be a combination of all these things, narcissistic and humane, some jumbled up mixture, with more things added into the mix as well? Through my conscious regret, I am learning from it how to contain my reactions and process them as I continue to work with the monthly mourning and therapy group. Through all this, I become more capable of helping all the other group members work with and understand their own aggression as it emerges within this group. This occurred as I went to the hull of the group ship and began to take more control, beginning to guide us through the stormy waters of group aggression, as well as guiding everyone through the psychic visualization at the beginning of the group. The dialogues between these group members illustrate how rapid-fire negative judgments and projections can turn into communication and conversation. This evolving conversation has meaning for the whole group in terms of understanding these negative judgments and projections as defenses against a feared interpersonal affect contact that can potentially be transformed from disowned aggression in the form of accusatory hostility into empathic understanding and mutual surrender into curiosity about who the other is, also reducing the fear of not having one's own voice if one lets in the other. Consequently, the whole group became engaged in expressing what fears they had of others' judgments. The group began expressing how difficult it was to trust that these difficult things could be given voice to, rather than being hidden and acted out in split-off ways outside the group, including by people dropping out. Through the group process, a polarized opposition in the group was now transforming into the communicative dialogue of interactive human beings who were trying to understand and know each other. This could in turn lead to each group member in the room having their own individual internal capacity for psychic dialectic facilitated, as the external and internal worlds interacted and empathy and compassion was created through dialogue. Thank you.
I just wanted to share the range of experiences that your paper raised for me as a therapist, and it was quite wonderful to consider this and feel it. It resonated with me, a countertransference which I feel kind of, looking back at it, feels like a mistake. why didn't I say it a little differently? Why didn't I hold back? Somehow create something which changes the therapy in some wonderful way.
Both psychoanalysis and Buddhism are concerned with alleviating suffering and illuminating human identity. Jeffrey Rubin is considered to be one of the leading integrators of Eastern meditative and Western psychotherapeutic traditions.
Susan's paper is a gift to us because it opens up a territory most of us would rather forget or ignore. Her courage in examining the neglected emotion of regret is the first virtue of her paper. The second virtue is Susan's honesty. Susan not only shares her regret, but she struggles to understand what went wrong in her group and with her patient. Her self-reflectiveness is the third virtue of her paper. She wonders, for example, if her own regret is a, quote, narcissistic concern for my own loss in having Nancy leaving me in this abrupt way, end of quote, or existential regret about part of the developmental mourning process. I'm sorry, that's all a continuous quote. The fourth virtue of Susan's paper is that she gives us a glimpse of change and transformation of significant early developmental arrests and conflicts based on psychoanalytic principles and understanding. Susan's own grappling with her countertransference regret aided her in working with disowned aggression among group members so that insights about lifelong transferences, as well as deep-seated transformation, became possible. The fifth virtue of Susan's paper is that she details and reminds us of the intricate and subtle vicissitudes of human interaction. The way, for example, that sadism can hide vulnerability and submission can coexist with aggression. In Susan's adept hands, human behavior and interactions take on a richness and complexity that is often bleached out of contemporary popular culture's portrayal of people. We leave the universe of Susan's reflections on her group more alert to and respectful of the depths of human beings. But to speak only of the paper's virtues neglects the crisis Susan described with Nancy and the group and Susan's regret about it. The next section is called The Hidden Value of Crisis. The word crisis has, for many of us, an immediate, visceral, and negative connotation. Someone or something has been assaulted or endangered by illness, violence, or some form of interpersonal, bodily, or natural violation or disaster. From Newtown to Hurricane Sandy, to 9/11, to sexual assaults, etc. For crisis can lead to breakdown or breakthrough. Catastrophe can harm or destroy an institution, a person, or a relationship. But crisis can also lead to transformation and renewal. What do each of us regret? Susan shared her regret. She just opened this up for us. What do each of us regret? How do we work with it? What interferes with us doing that? And can we foster more constructive dialogue across the chasm of different schools of analysis so that we all might collaborate more, learn from each other, help our patients even more, and then suffer less regret ourselves? Thank you.
First of all, I just have to say that these are two of the most, I think, courageous, rare, and insightful papers that I've heard in a long time. One is in a definite response to the other. The first is this remarkable, almost confession. And the second, an extremely compassionate supervisory intervention. It's rare that we see learning happening directly in front of us when you're reading prepared papers. Where's Edith Piaf when we need her? I regret nothing. Well, obviously, there's nobody alive that regrets nothing. That's clearly just a bold bit of bravado that's clearly false. Along with Old Blue Eyes, I did it my way. Well, nobody ever gets to do it their way, and nobody ever regrets nothing. But we like to walk through life as if that were the case. Yeah? And I think we got two things here today that were, hey, I do have something to regret, and I didn't do it my way. Dylan's famous line, there is no success like failure, and failure is no success at all. Being the bad object is one of the things we also learned from Jeffrey Seinfeld. Being able to take a negative transference is one of the hardest things, and I speak as a teacher for 30 years, an educator. I've been at the receiving end of some pretty tough stuff, and I've had people get up and walk out of class on me, or go and complain and this and that. I mean, this is just part of, what did Freud call it, the 3 impossible professions? And one of them is being a teacher, and the other one, of course, is being a psychotherapist.
So you knew, or were attuned to, thinking that Susan could hear you in the light that you were trying to express it in. And I think it was so important, Jeffrey, for what you said and what you illuminated and added to Susan's hard work and openness and self-evaluation in the public world. I thought that you were so helpful.
I referred to the analogies between the follower and leader in Tango and the analyst and patient. The follower needs to take the lead without anticipating, and this is similar to the analyst with the patient, so I've made analogies between the analyst and the patient being in the moment, and the analyst free-floating attention beyond terms of without memory and desire, being in the moment for the analyst, following the patient.
A lot of times people go dance tango with a lot of regret and a lot of emotion in their hearts. And they go dance because they want to express it somehow. And I think one of the wonderful things about the tango community and tango in general is that you can do an action that helps you to work through or resolve your emotions. And it's very helpful to be able to have something that you can do that's positive, rather than just sit at home and stew about it or feel horrible.
Allá entre sombras la amarga, no despiertes y vive soñando, en tu mente hay torrente de sol, en tus sueños se encienden suspiros que te cercan y acallan tu voz.